What's going on here? Well, fundamentally, all these pieces of carbon fibre keep the wheels on, have the car set up at the right height, and give enough give so that the drivers don't rattle their heads off. There are two main components, the wishbones and the suspension arm. There are sort of upper and lower wishbones. They're the sort of V-shaped or wishbone-shaped devices that make sure the wheels are on the car, the wheels are at the right angle, etc., etc. We'll talk about wishbones another time, but I want to talk today about the suspension arm and the various setups that the teams have of mounting these suspension arms. So essentially, this suspension arm can be mounted in one of two ways, push rod or pull rod. So let's talk about what they are and the benefits and drawbacks of each. So the dark grey horizontal lines, almost horizontal lines here are the wishbones. I want to talk about the diagonal line, which is the suspension arm. And first off, let's talk about push rod. So as you can see, push rod is where the suspension arm is mounted lower on the wheel and higher on the monocoque in the body. And it's attached to the rocker and it rotates and it's pushing the rocker like that, as you can see in the diagram. Therefore, pull rod is the other way around, so it's mounted higher up on the wheel and is pointing down into the monocoque and is pulling the rocker arm in the opposite direction. So it's now mounted below and is angled down. So as you can tell with the different angles of the suspension arm, that's obviously going to have significant impacts on the aero, but it also has significant impacts on the way you can set up the car and the ease at which you can set up the car. So push rod is more compact and aerodynamically more efficient, but pull rod can lower the center of gravity, lower the car itself onto the road, and help with better weight distribution. So this is a great image right at the start of 22 at the beginning of the ground effect era, showing the two different suspension setups, push rod and pull rod. Now, this was an interesting time because this was the beginning of the ground effect era where the cars had to get really, really close to the ground, which actually benefited the pull rod setup, which was a little bizarre at the front of the car. And both McLaren and Red Bull pioneered this, and a lot of the teams caught up. Now we're in the era where the underbody airflow is less of a big deal, so we're going to probably see more push rod setups because the cars don't have to be closer to the ground like they were in previous years. Now, of course, this is one part of a much bigger picture, so the design philosophy of the whole car actually does influence, of course, the setup of the suspension and vice versa. So there's more that goes into it, and the designers, take this into consideration as a whole. But those are the basics of the benefits and drawbacks of push rod versus pull rod and why certain eras would maybe favor one setup over another. Of course, it's different front to back as well. We can get into that, but those are the basics.